It started with the scrape of the carving knife, that slow, deliberate sound of metal gliding against bone, slicing through the turkey the same way my father sliced through the air that held us together. The table was crowded with dishes, plates piled high with food, but the silence sitting between us was heavier than anything we could have eaten. It pressed against my ribs until breathing felt like a task. Then he said it. He didn't look at me when he spoke, didn't soften his voice or pretend it was a joke. "Your sister was born to live soft," he said, wiping the blade, not even pausing. "And you? You were born to make money for her. If you've got a problem with that, there's the door." I stared at him, really stared, the man who once told me I was smart, hardworking, meant for more. But now he looked at me like I was the family tool, something convenient, expected, replaceable. My mother nodded beside him, her eyes glossy with compliance, as if agreeing was as natural as breathing, as if cruelty was tradition. And my sister, she smirked. Her fork hovered midair like she expected a crown to be placed on her head next. It was her coronation dinner, and I was the entertainment. I said it calmly. "Fine. I'll leave. And you can start paying your own bills." The scrape of my chair against the floor was sharp and jarring, louder than any shouting match I could have thrown at them. They thought I was bluffing. They always thought I was bluffing. They mistook obedience for love. I used to think love was a currency. That if I gave enough time, enough money, enough of myself, they'd give something back. But in my family, I was never a son. I was an ATM with a pulse. I got my first job at 16, sweeping floors at the auto shop. Every paycheck went to family emergencies. Maybe the electricity bill. Maybe my sister's school trip. Maybe whatever story they made up that week. By 20, I was juggling 2 jobs, paying rent, tuition, groceries, and funding my sister's designer bags disguised as graduation presents she didn't earn. And every time I protested, my father would say, "Family helps family." What he meant was, "You help us. We owe you nothing." Still, I stayed. I stayed because I hoped one day they'd look at me and see a son instead of a resource. Then came the discovery. It was tax season, and the paperwork always ended up in my hands because I was the only one who knew how to read numbers without panicking. That year, I saw something I hadn't looked for. My father's name linked to my account. Withdrawals under categories like maintenance and household and miscellaneous, money disappearing in neat little sums I never touched. They'd been draining me quietly for years. When I confronted my mother, she didn't blink, didn't apologize. She just said, "We thought you wouldn't notice. You're always so busy. Busy building the life they were already spending." That night something cracked in me, but it wasn't anger. Rage would have been easier. Instead, everything went quiet inside, like a door closing softly. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just started a plan. Step 1, move everything. I closed the shared accounts, created a private one, and set protections no one could guess. Every cent was moved. Every password changed. Step 2, reverse the dependencies. I canceled the automatic bill payments they'd connected to my name, electricity, water, insurance, the mortgage. Then I waited. When the lights went out in their house, my father called. His voice was tight, strained with forced calm. "Son, the power's out. Call the company," I said, and hung up before he could speak again. Step 3, the foundation. The house they lived in was in my name, my credit, my payments, my sweat. I kept every receipt, every wire transfer, every shred of proof. So I sold it. Quietly. Legally. Perfectly. They didn't know until the new owner showed up with a truck and a binder full of documents. My mother screamed over the phone. "Where are we supposed to go?" "You told me to leave," I said. "I just made it official." 6 months passed before the dust settled. They ended up in a cramped apartment on the outskirts of town, the kind of place they used to shame other people for living in. My sister posted staged photos, pretending it was all temporary, pretending the universe had wronged her. But I knew better. This was a misfortune. This was consequence. Still, I wasn't finished. A year later, Thanksgiving returned. Same date. Same knife. Same turkey. But the energy was different. When I walked in, uninvited, the silence wasn't heavy. It was scared. I sat down without asking. My father looked smaller. My mother looked older. My sister looked like bitterness wearing makeup. My father broke first. "You think you've won, huh?" I smiled. "I didn't play to win. I just stopped playing your game." He tried to laugh, but the sound collapsed into nothing. My sister rolled her eyes, ready to fire off some insult, but her phone buzzed. The notification hit her screen, and her face strained. Months earlier, I found out she was trying to open a credit line using my name again. So I reported it. Federal fraud. They investigated. And now the result had come through. Her accounts frozen, her record tainted permanently. The table exploded into chaos. My father shouting, my mother gasping, my sister breaking down like the world owed her mercy. And in the middle of it, I kept cutting my turkey.
Calm.
Steady. The knife sliding through the meat like justice finally had a taste. That was the moment they finally understood. I wasn't their safety net anymore. I was the storm they created and never expected to face. When I stood to leave, my father whispered, "You've changed." I paused in the doorway.
No.
I just stopped apologizing for not being soft. And I walked out. But this time, it wasn't their door I was leaving through. It was the story they wrote for me. I stepped into one I built myself. Now, when people ask about family, I tell them the truth. Blood doesn't make you family. Sometimes it's the knife that finally cuts you free. And that Thanksgiving, I didn't just carve the turkey. I carved my way out of the life they tried to trap me in.